Welcome to another edition of Turn 6 Garage, and today, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. Had a lot on, and today I'm driving one of the newest cars of the fleet, a 2017 Mazda CX-3 Maxx 1.5 Diesel. Very rare car in Australia, at least. 1,800 of these things were sold. And rare does not equal desirable. It's a bit of an oddball, this one. Most people who buy a CX-3 tend to buy it with the 2-litre petrol engine and the 6-speed automatic transmission. This one has the 1.5 diesel and the 6-speed auto. You can only get this with a automatic gearbox and not a manual one, sadly. In Australia, at least. So this car is a bit of a rare car, but not very desirable. You see, Mazda Diesels haven't exactly had an especially good following in this country. Mazda Diesels haven't exactly had a good reputation for reliability. Their petrols have been very, very good. Their diesels have been very, very average. Most people who wanted a diesel bought a Volkswagen. They bought a Peugeot. They bought something European. When the CX-3 was launched in 2015, it came out with this engine and the 2-litre petrol. This engine then got replaced in 2018 with the even rarer 1.8 diesel engine. And yes, I am looking fond of them as well, because I love buying trash, basically. I love buying stupid, rare cars that nobody gives two shits about, that would be interesting to run and need the TLC and love that only a lunatic like me would ever consider giving, because frankly, well, nobody in their right mind would ever want to fix this, because no one will buy it off them anyway, which is why it's going to go to the rental fleet. This is one of the cars that's now eligible for the other rental platforms, where most of my Frenchies are sadly not eligible, barring the least complete of all the Megans, the one on the Grey's 209 car, by virtue of it being a 2008 car. Yep, but my complete ones are not eligible, sadly. So this and the Fiat and the 2-litre are going to DriveMate over the summer, and then we'll go from there as to what we buy next. But this CX-3 diesel is, well, very nice car. It's got a lovely engine. It's very refined, especially for a diesel. Not very clattery. It's quite smooth and refined. You can hear it's a diesel, but it doesn't make that sort of low, grinchy type noise that low-pitched growl the 1.9 DCI makes so well. This is sounding like a petrol engine at times. It is a bit diesely when it's cold, but if you gave me a rev counter that didn't say 6,000 RPM, it said 7,000 or 8,000, I'd be hard pressed to tell this was actually a diesel. It's actually really smooth and really refined, and it's also very punchy. So I'm currently cruising at 70 k's an hour, 1,500 RPM, and this thing is, engine noise is really quiet. Wind noise, typical of Mazdas, is, well, there, and you can always tell it's there. They still can't sort out the wind noise issue. But of course, the car's made for a price, so what do you expect? However, when I'm sitting at the traffic lights and this thing, I stare at this interior, and it's bargain basement. Sure, they've got these snazzy looking red highlighted air vents and different air vents in the centre, with this sort of faux leather piece that's really vinyl. But all the control surfaces and all the buttons just feel cheap. Doesn't feel like it's a very expensive car, but it wasn't really an expensive car to start with. These were a cheap car originally. There was a time when a base CX-3 was $23,990. Wish that time still existed for the manual 2-litre, but anyway, cars have gone up a lot in 9 years. So why, oh why, did I end up with a CX-3 turbo diesel? Well, it goes to the fact that when my other thing didn't work out so well, i.e. my studies at the start of the year, I had some time to work, worked for a company, I still do work for a company who specialises in leasing cars, and we had some cars have been returned that we put on car share when it was still going in summer, and this was one of them. Now, this car had some vinyl wrapping on it when I first got it. It was still there when it was being rented. And ultimately, when we withdrew the cars after the renters treated them terribly, to put it mildly, the high-end SUVs, sort of things I never had an issue with my bottom enders, they got rid of all these cars, except for two. The Captiva, which you saw me take to Grays in the Grays video, and this one, because nobody was offering them any real money for either of them. And the CX-3 is not a car anyone especially wants, nor cares about, nor wants to fix or even wreck. I did speak to a couple of wreckers, and when I mentioned the word CX-3 and diesel, the words were, no way, we aren't touching those. Glowing endorsements of this fine automobile. So who else buys jalopies that no one cares about, no one really wants to fix? Well, that would be me. After all, look at the cars I currently own. There's a common thread to a lot of these cars. DCI, 1.2 Fiat, assortment of BMs. Yeah! Cars people don't really care so much about. Cars people are happy to dump. And cars some loony masochist like me would gladly take on, because why not? Why wouldn't I have a CX-3 with a tractor engine in it that has done a 171,000 kilometers, so it's not really going to attract many friends used, that's for sure. Now, I first drove this thing summer last year, and I thought, this is a really nice little car. And I thought, of all the ones, I actually really like it. It has some charm to it. It wasn't a hard sell for me to get this CX-3 and the Captiva together and dump the Captiva and fix this one up, because I like the car. From my first drive in summer, it just had this sort of charm to it. Go around the corner. Holds it reasonably well, doesn't understeer too much, especially for a diesel. And then outside the corner, put your foot down, and that wave of turbo boost. Oh, you can just, like the DCI, you can just lap up cars and pass them in the right gear. It's got such a wonderful feeling to it when you drive it. Smooth, punchy performance off a diesel. It's a nice engine. It's just a shame that, well, it suffers from the same issue most Mazda diesel engines suffer from. They are remarkably temperamental things. The reason no one really likes these cars in the second-hand market is they had a recall about 5 years ago for the engines that would like to overrun, particularly in neutral park, and starve themselves of oil. What a good feature. This is the sort of dreadful car that I would gladly take on. It's horrible. It's masochistic in its core. Find bits for it. How wrong you would be. Literally every parts store I know of has some, but not all, the parts. Yep. This car, given its rarity, is a bit difficult to find bits for, and it's only 7 years old. This thing will be a nightmare as it gets older, but that's okay. It's being owned by a complete masochist, so who cares? I'll keep fixing this piece of shit till it dies. I'll keep it going. This thing will be made to keep going. I'm not letting it go. Yep. So there's the thing with the CX-3 diesel. If you are a standard, ordinary consumer and you want a reliable daily driver, this ain't it. This is for someone like me who's got a specific use for it, probably to flog it, so tourists can flog it on their holidays for a reasonable price with good service and good technology, and who will also maintain it on time. Half the issue with the CX-3, and this came when I bought it, was that you need to service this thing on time, on the dot, all the time. Now, that wasn't exactly done in its previous hands. I know this because I got it serviced at Mazda near my house in Melbourne, and I found out that the car was about to go into limp home mode because there was it was a bit low on PEF fluid, diesel additive fluid. Hadn't been serviced in 15,000-20,000 Ks. Yeah, didn't like that too much. The injectors were noisy, it was a bit rough running. Now it's had a full service and clean up, and I did do the major service on it. It has improved it. It still leaks a bit of oil, but that's in the process of being sorted out. I'm driving it to work out where the leak actually is to get the seal sorted on it before it goes up for rental. And not as if parts are cheap either. The injectors are nearly $1,000 a shot new. Compare the fact that the injectors for a Peugeot 2-litre HDI or a Renault 1.5 DCI are $250, $300 a shot. One of the Mazda injectors equals a whole set for the Renault or the Peugeot. Yeah, you get that picture. This thing ain't the cheapest thing in the world to run. Wear and tear parts like brakes and suspension are cheap, but anything to do with this motor is not cheap. Oh yeah, you can't get the DPF either. That's a bit of a issue. They're not exactly in stock. You have to wait a few weeks for that. You think Mazdas are reliable? Petrol Mazdas are. Diesels are not. Diesels are for those who do high Ks and are enthusiasts and stock their own parts and know where to find the parts. Second hand, if you want a diesel and you want reliability, I suggest buy something with 3 pedals from France, oddly enough. Certain French diesels, i.e. the RHR Peugeot engine, the 1.9 and 1.5, so F9Q and K9K Renault. Those engines are more reliable than this one. They're more reliable than most of the Mazda diesel engines. The 2.2 is also like chewing up injectors as well, which is a interesting trait of theirs. So it's a great car that is let down by the fact that bits are hard to find and they're not the most reliable things in the world, and you need to service them a lot and look after them. You'll see more of this car when it's doing its rental rounds. This car will be probably the most expensive hire car I will be offering, and I hope those who drive this thing have a good time driving it, because I do enjoy this car quite a lot. It's got a great engine, it's got a good little chassis, rides a little bit stiff, the wind noise is there, the interior feels a bit cheap, and it's a bit of a common car, but I do like it. But its flaws give it character, and that's why I like the CX-3 diesel so much. It's a characterful little car. The 2-litre petrol's a little bit weedy at times. This thing sorts out that weediness. It's very despite the reliability, despite the recall, despite all the things against Mazda Diesels, this car is highly underappreciated. It is a lot better than people think it is. So, the fact is, we only got this engine in the CX-3. It does exist overseas in the Japanese spec Demios, which are now starting to pile up at Japanese dealer wholesale auctions. Maybe, who knows? So, as long as you know where to find the bits, and in my case probably stockpile the bits, and yes, this is unlikely to be the only CX-3 diesel I own. I have a little policy with rental cars. I ideally want to keep as many common parts as possible. Now I've got this, I may as well have another one at some point. I haven't quite found one that's subsidised enough with enough problems yet, but it'll come. And yes, it'll be a car you can rent if you're in Melbourne. If you're in southeastern Melbourne on DriveMate, you can rent this car, probably in November, December. But this will be up for rental. You can go on your trip and enjoy the pocket-pleasing economy of the CX-3 diesel on a highway run. We were getting low 4s per 100k. Great car. Great car if you run a rental organisation. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you like what we do, remember to like and subscribe.